Welcome to Under the Fig Tree podcast from the Enrollment Office at Concordia Seminary. Join us as we talk theology and life under the fig tree.
All right, well, welcome back to Under the Fig Tree. It's so good to be with you all today as we hear a little bit more about the seminary from one of our professors. We have with us today Dr. Kevin Golden, who's joining us as our guest. I'm joined also by my co-host, first-year seminarian, Daniel Oberdieck. We were talking a little bit before, but Major League Baseball right now.
Yeah, it's an interesting scene for sure. I'm a Cardinals fan. I've always been a Cardinals fan, which is nice for me because now I live here in St. Louis. So we went to 3 or 4 games this last season. I haven't been to one yet this season. I'm excited about that. But the Cardinals are actually doing pretty well. Which is pretty
it's supposed to be a rebuild right now, but instead they're half a game out of first place in the division. Yeah. The division's going crazy. Everyone's got a winning record. So we'll see. It's a long season, though. So we'll see where we are come September, October.
Yeah. Well, I'm a Brewers fan. And so you guys can boo
it's
and
hiss. It's an ecumenical event. Right?
Yeah, an ecumenical event right now. But grew up in Wisconsin. And so Brewers fan, suffered through many years of poor baseball growing up, listening to the great Bob Uecker, which is wonderful, but many years of poor baseball. But every year now, it seems like the Brewers are said, hey, we're not going to do very well, and then they do well. But then this year we've started off hot, but then all of a sudden got cold, and now we're kind of trying to get back into the middle of it.
Yeah, but we're only 20-some games into a 162-game season.
That's true.
It's long haul.
We'll see.
Play the long game. And you do that in the pastoral ministry as well.
And this is good. Yeah. This is good. Well, Dr. Golden, we are so thankful to have you with us today.
It's good to be here.
Yeah. If you could just introduce to our guests who may not know you a little bit more, just tell us a little bit more about yourself, about your family, your background, and then also your journey to pastoral ministry.
All right. So, I've been on faculty here for just over almost 5 years.
Yeah.
Man, maybe it seems like I've been here longer than
we
I
just
have,
had the staff recognition on Friday.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So I've been on faculty almost 5 years now. I'm married. My wife and I have been blessed with 7 living children. So our oldest is 25. Our youngest just turned 8. And so we got a smattering in between there. So a lot of energy in my household. As I was just talking with a prospective student today, I've got 2 teenage boys. So the grocery bill is substantial because those boys can, just like their dad when I was a teenager, can really put away the food. I also am a Cardinals fan. So go Cardinals. Hopefully this rebuild is a pretty short rebuild where they're really back in the thick of things once again. My area that I teach here at the seminary, I'm an Old Testament guy. So I teach a lot in the realm of the Old Testament. Also get to serve as the director of resident field education. So I work with students like assigning Daniel to the congregation where he's serving his field education and such. And then I'm also the dean of ministerial formation. So that's a great opportunity to rejoice and work with, again, students as they're being formed to serve in the church.
Well, Dr. Golden, would you mind telling us just a little bit about where you've served in your prior calls, like first call out of seminary, where you went after that?
Sure. So I'm a graduate of this institution in 1999 is when I received the Master of Divinity. And then I stuck around a few years working on PhD, received my first call in 2002, and that was to Grace Lutheran Church in Holtz Summit, Missouri.
Holtz Summit.
Yeah, Holtz Summit. In fact, I'm from Missouri. I'm a Missouri native. And have to admit, when that was announced on call day back in 2002, I said, where's Holtz Summit? I had not heard of it before. It's a little bedroom community for Jefferson City. So right in the middle of the state, at that wonderful congregation, I was only the second pastor they had ever had. They were a young congregation. When I arrived, I think they'd been chartered about 7-8 years at that point. And so I was blessed to spend 7 years there. And then after being there 7 years, I received a call to Village Lutheran Church in Ladue, Missouri, suburban St. Louis. And I was there for 12 years before joining the faculty here. So 19 years total, of full-time parish experience before joining the faculty.
And did you have intentions of becoming a professor, like kind of as you were going into pastoral ministry, as you were coming to the seminary? I mean, obviously you said you got your PhD kind of fairly quickly. So you had aspirations from a younger age about being a professor? Yeah,
it definitely was something that I was interested in doing. That's one of the reasons why I stuck around to get the PhD. It wasn't because I wanted to spend more money and wait longer to make a regular salary and such. No, I love the studies. I love biblical exegesis, reading the text in Greek and Hebrew, and I ended up especially going Old Testament route and such. I had a thought of maybe someday I could be a professor, but to be honest, when I was called to be a member of this faculty, without giving too many other institutions away, it was actually the fourth time that I was sought out by one of the universities or seminaries of our synod to join their faculty. And the first three times, kind of in various points of the process, I just said, no, you know what? I need to stay in where I'm at. Sometimes, to be honest, the first time was when I was only 3 years into my first parish. And I said, number one, I only have 3 years of pastoral experience. I want more than that before I'm a professor. But also, 3 years was not long enough for me to be in that congregation. I wanted to have more investment in them. But then other times it was a matter of, you know what, right now is not the time for my family, for me to move the family to a different part of the country or something like that.
Yeah, definitely a lot of factors. Whenever a pastor receives another call, then it's like, okay, I've got two calls. Sometimes guys are receiving multiple calls at once to different places.
That's right.
And so definitely a lot to consider when that happens. So what was it like to go from serving in the parish to then teaching at the seminary? Were there things that you missed or things that you really liked?
Yeah. So the very churchly way that I tell people when they ask this question is I'll just say it's a different set of blessings.
That's right.
So that there's a set of blessings that you have when you're serving in the parish. There's a different set of blessings that I have here at the seminary. I would say one of the things that's a blessing here at the seminary is, although I have enough administrative roles now that I have plenty of meetings to attend, those meetings are not in the evenings and they're not on the weekends typically. So that's one of the blessings of being a seminary professor is my evenings tend to be free. That's very good for my family. So I can be home, helping my kids with homework, just living life with them and such, spending more time with my wife in the evenings, relatively free on the weekends as well. But I had a very different set of blessings when I was in the parish. You'd understand this, Pastor Reiter, is that the relationships you build up in the parish. I love my students, all right? And looking forward, Daniel, I know I'm going to have you this summer in class, so looking forward to that. But the thing is, students, they're here for 4 years maybe, and then they leave. And we rejoice for them to leave because, hey, they're going off to serve the church. We love having them here, but we know that they're here for a period of time. When I was at, for example, Village, in 12 years, some members, in those 12 years, the relationship you build up with them is just really wonderful, enriching. And so that's the biggest thing I miss about the parish is those relationships.
So, Dr. Golden, you mentioned that you're a professor of Old Testament and you wear several hats here. Could you tell us a little bit more about your doctoral research, what you kind of specialized in, and then more about the classes that you teach too?
Sure. So my PhD dissertation was written in the field of intertextuality, which is really how does one biblical text make use of a previous biblical text, but without direct quotation. So it's much more in the way of allusions. And so the first thing I had to do was kind of establish a methodology that it's not just that, hey, I kind of like the idea of reading these two texts together, but rather establishing a connection on the basis of the text itself, even though there aren't direct quotations. So I established a methodology for that. And then what I did was I applied it to how the book of Jonah has intertextual material from the flood narrative. So think about everything with Noah and such. Yeah. And so a big part of that came out of my advisor was Dr. Reed Lessing, that many of our listeners may be familiar with. And Dr. Lessing was my doctoral advisor. When I started my dissertation, he was just beginning his work on the Jonah commentary that he wrote. And so he said, Kevin, I want you to work in Jonah because, hey, we can dovetail our research and stuff. And so that worked out really well.
Dovetail.
Yeah, there you go. I was being punny and I didn't even type it. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, we know also we have the Concordia commentary series, and recently, has it been a couple years now since Hosea came out?
Actually, it's only been about 4 or 5 months. It officially came out in December of 2025.
Okay, so it just came out December 2025.
Fresh, hot off the press.
Off the press, and this is a plug. We've got Concordia Publishing House here on campus today.
Yes.
Handing out gifts to our, concluding MDiv and RAR students.
Pretty much everyone.
As well as vicars.
Yeah, everybody but you.
I'm sorry. Next year.
And then 2 years after that.
That's right.
So.
That's right. But
But
the donuts were for everybody.
The donuts were for everyone.
The donuts were for everybody.
But I exercised self-control. I did not take a donut.
Well done.
Well, I took
even
one
though it's
for
not
you.
Lenten.
Thank you. That's why.
So Hosea has come out.
Yes.
You wrote a commentary on it.
Yeah.
Hosea is a minor prophet book.
Correct.
It's got kind of a unique story. Could you tell us a little bit more about the story of Hosea and just what implications that has for pastoral ministry?
Yeah, so that's an interesting question because, I was teaching a Bible study on Sunday, and the Bible study is on Hosea, which is an interesting, again, prophet to discuss in Bible study because the prophets in general have difficult callings. And so I joked with the congregation that I've been thinking about writing a new liturgical hymn that is based off of a classic country western song. That would be Mamas, Don't Let Your Babies Grow Up to Be Prophets. Because the prophets really have difficult callings. And Hosea has a particularly difficult calling in that his call to be a prophet was also a call to marry a whore. All right. Now that is, I hesitate as I use that term, but it is the term that I use in the commentary. It really is the most accurate translation, I would argue, for the Hebrew. And part of it, the reason that that term is used is because it's meant to be shocking and offensive because it is describing the reality of Israel's sin, of our sin as well.
Yeah.
And so therefore, if it shocks and offends you, well, that's supposed to. If it doesn't shock and offend you, it should, all right? That's right. Yeah. You're supposed to be troubled by this so that then you'll come to a recognition of the troubling of your own sin. Now, the beautiful thing is, and this you can see this in Hosea chapter 2, verse 14, if you're looking in the English, but when we're doing it in Hebrew sometime, Daniel, or Craig, you can go take a look at this. Hosea 2, verse 16 in the Hebrew. The versification's a little bit off between. But there you get, after a long description of how Israel, the people of God, have been whoring away from him, running after idols that they are treating as if that's their husband rather than the Lord being their husband. After all that, we hear, therefore, which is usually what a prophet uses, that term, to introduce a statement of judgment and condemnation. He says, therefore, behold, and that's a big attention getter. So you're kind of waiting for this massive proclamation of judgment. Get ready. Behold, or therefore, behold, I am wooing her. All right. So there you get a handle on the heart of the Lord. That when his bride, when his people go running after false gods, what does he do? He doubles down and he seeks to win back his bride. Now, that is great insight for pastoral ministry because this is what the pastor is supposed to be doing as well on behalf of the Lord, is the person who has run away from the Lord, maybe abandoned the church, run away from the church. What is the Lord doing? He's seeking out after that person to win them back. And it's that kind of unquenchable love that the pastor is supposed to be delivering as well.
Yeah, never just okay, well, forget you, but just a pursuit.
That's right. And when I think about my years in the pastoral ministry, I kind of developed a process that 3 times a year, I was kind of intentionally trying to reach out to all the what I would call the absentee members of the congregation, those that I had not seen in church recently. And I kind of developed this process. And, it is something that you pour a ton of energy into. And sometimes you don't see a lot of return on that energy. But when you did get just one of them who responded and ended up coming back into the life of the church, that just made the whole thing worth it.
And is that something that you experienced oftentimes? Those people were looking for someone in the church to reach out to them and say, no, we really do want you here.
Well, yeah, that is sometimes the exact thing. You're right. Yeah, that they had a sense of, nobody notices me. Nobody really cares about me. And so, and it might take multiple phone calls, multiple me seeking out to them in one way or another before they respond. But it does get to them that, you know what? Pastor actually cares. The church actually cares. And you know what? Christ actually cares.
Well, Dr. Golden, is there any advice that, based on being a professor here and all of the other different roles that you have, any advice that you would have for prospective students as they're coming in, as they're preparing for their formation here at Concordia Seminary?
Yeah, there's a lot of things that I think I would hone in on. I'll just give you two. And the first one would be, and again, Daniel, I know you'll have class with me this summer, so you'll probably hear me say this on multiple occasions because it's something that I'm always talking about, is that kind of in the number one, what I would say personality trait that is necessary for a pastor to thrive and to serve well is humility. All right. Humility, that he doesn't have a big head. He does, but humility is not this kind of sheepishness though. It is about boldness and confidence, because I may not think the world of myself. I do think everything about Christ. I have every confidence in the gospel. And so I can go full bore with confidence because of who Christ is and what he has done for us, but also do that in such a way where I am humble. All right. So that in the parish, humility is very helpful because you've got members who know a lot of stuff, and I need to be patient and willing to listen to them and talk to them in a way that is respectful and such, because I'm not talking to somebody who doesn't care, who doesn't know anything about Christ, but rather those who have a lifelong connection to the church. So that'd be the first thing is, inculcate that humility, which actually leads into boldness for the sake of Christ. Yeah. The second thing that I would say is, this kind of goes hand in hand with the humility, as you can attest to. Well, Pastor, you can attest to because you went through seminary. Yeah. I can tell you as well, when I was a seminary student, it is demanding. It is challenging, but boy, is the challenge worth it. When I remember going through as a student, and man, it was demanding on me. And my first 2 years as a seminarian, I was single. And so it made it a little bit easier because I didn't have to worry about balancing life at home and such. My wife, we were dating at the time, but she was off at college. So we had limited time that we could spend with each other anyway, other than when one of us was able to visit the other. I think about my classmates who were married and had children, the challenge that they had to face. So I was understanding on that. But then when I got into the parish, there is not a single seminary class that I took where I thought that was a waste of time. Every class, I could think back to the benefit I received from that and how it formed me to be a good pastor. Everything from giving me the necessary skills that I needed. So you think about, I know right now you'd be in homiletics, all right? I remember as a first-year pastor, you have to write a sermon every Sunday for every Sunday. You don't write it on Sunday. You're done before Sunday. But you have to prepare a sermon for every Sunday. Then there's the seasonal services, Advent and Lent kick in, Holy Week. You might have a funeral thrown in there, weddings. And, there are those weeks where you're just having to churn them out. And I remember sitting there staring at the screen going, how am I going to get this sermon? I don't know what to say. It's like and so you know what I ended up doing? Pulling out my old homiletics notes and just kind of doing some rereading. And then I'd pull out some notes from a class on, if I was writing the sermon, let's say on Matthew, I'd pull out some Matthew notes. And so I was always returning to the things that I had been taught at seminary. Now, eventually, I matured as a pastor, and I started to really get a bit more of a homiletical rhythm, if you will. But the big point would be, come prepared to work hard, to be stretched, to be pushed, but also do it with this confidence that it's all well worth it. There's not a thing that I learned here that I thought was a waste, but rather it all served me well as a parish pastor.
Well, we're getting close to the end of our time together here, but we like to do a fun section now.
Okay. All right.
A section called Ripe for the Pickin' or Leave It on the Tree. If it's ripe for the pickin', that means you really enjoy it. If it's leave it on the tree, you would just rather not have anything to do with it.
All right.
So I've got the first one here, golfing.
Leave it on the tree.
Okay.
So when I was a teenager, I did a lot of golfing. I developed a slice that I could never correct. And I all of a sudden realized one day I am spending a whole lot of money to just be mad all the time. That did not make sense. So I gave up golf. About a decade or so ago, I was on a golf event with the youth of my congregation, and the slice was still there. And I was reinforced, all right, nope, this is not what I need to be doing.
Yeah.
But you're a big baseball guy.
I'm a big baseball guy. So,
Good.
yes.
Good.
Yep.
I think Daniel and I both enjoy golfing, but I don't know. What you struggle more with a hook or a slice, or are you pretty pure? Do you hit it pretty straight?
No, it's the mental game for me.
It's the
I
mental
think
game.
Yeah.
Okay.
Left, right, it'll go either way. But yeah, it's about keeping the club in my hands.
Yeah.
Not throwing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got, as my father-in-law would say, if it's going just one way, if you're consistently pulling it left or you're consistently pushing it right, then you can at least correct it. It's
Well,
like,
yes.
it's when your one shot goes left, another shot goes right. Then it's like, okay, I really don't know what's
Since
going
I was
on
always
here.
slicing to the right, I actually started, aiming accordingly. And it was nice if it was a broad fairway and then it would dogleg to the right.
Oh, yeah,
So I
yeah.
could just kind of drop it right in. But
And
that
say,
is
I meant
like
to do
about
Yeah.
10% of holes where that works.
That's right.
Yeah.
So what about gooey butter cake? Would you take it or leave it on the tree?
Oh, I'm taking it. Yeah, definitely.
Ripe for the picking.
Yeah, ripe for the picking. I will take any gooey butter cake that is offered to me.
Yeah, recently we just had a meal train or a couple meal trains for my family with the arrival of our twins. And we've gotten some dessert. There was one that was gooey butter cookies. And then there was also gooey butter cake that we got. And out of the two of those, I think I prefer the gooey butter cake. I'm ripe for the picking with that.
Yeah.
And the cookies, I will pick as well, but I like the gooey butter cake itself better.
I prefer the cake as well, but to be honest, I have a pretty simple philosophy when it comes to food. If it's not liver, I love it. So
we had a lot of that in St. Genevieve, liver dumplings, where I was serving as a pastor.
I will leave that on the tree.
Yeah.
Leave that for you.
Me too. Sorry to the folks at Holy Cross. What about you, Daniel?
Yeah, I don't think I've found that perfect gooey butter cake yet. Now, clementines.
Well, keep searching. That's the fun thing.
I mean,
Keep
if someone
searching.
wants to bring me some, that would be wonderful. So Clementines, which is the ice cream shop, is just down on the other side of campus. So you can walk down to Demond and it's kind of dangerous how close it is, especially with their point system. You go like 3 or 4 times and then you get a free 3 scoops. But they do have a gooey butter cake ice cream. That one's not my favorite, but they've got some other good ones.
So recently I was chatting with a group of S&P students who were a cohort of our non-residential program. And they were talking about every time that they're on campus for an intensive, they always go down to Clementines.
Yeah.
It's part of their whole rhythm and routine. And I said, that is a good bonding experience. Yeah. Yes, it is.
Yeah. Well, we've got one more here. Turning the lights on immediately when you wake up. When you get up in the morning and maybe it's still a little bit dark, the sun's just coming up, are you a person, you're turning the lights on immediately when you wake up? Is that a ripe for the picking kind of thing, or is that a leave it on the tree?
Well, I would say that's a leave it on the tree for this reason is I am 95% of the time the first person up in my home.
Sure.
And so I don't turn on lights because I'm trying to let everyone sleep. The first light that I turn on is the under-counter lights in our kitchen because I'm making coffee. So that's always the first thing is I come down the hallway, turn on those lights, and start making coffee because that gets my day going.
Yeah. I'm definitely, I want to leave it dark or just kind of let the light come in as slowly as possible as the day gets going. I like that kind of peaceful stillness of the morning kind of coming in. If I'm not still sleeping. But I think my wife is maybe the opposite. She likes to kind of let's get the lights on, let's get going, and
get it all going at once. Yeah.
What about you?
No, when I wake up, usually I'm waking up a couple hours before my wife, just because I've got a lot of studies to get done this time of life. But I'll go out into our seminary apartment and just every light in the house, it's on. All the lamps too. helps me kind of wake up so I can focus on whatever I'm trying to get done. But also coffee first. It's always coffee first. So.
Well, thanks again for joining us for Under the Fig Tree. As Jesus saw Nathanael under the fig tree, he sees you too, and perhaps he is leading you to desire the office of holy ministry or serving in the church in another way. You can connect with us by going to csl.edu, tab over to the admissions page and fill out our contact form. We would love to talk with you. Again, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again soon.